Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
And it certainly isn't, because of the fact of what it is. I have something wrong with me. And a long time ago, nobody would talk about this. See, what they talked about was about how bad off they used to be, being drunk and the damage they did and so on and that. And I, of course, went along with all of that, too. And I never once ever knew about recovery or never knew the real reason to come to meetings and keep coming to meetings to where these scandals start to pile up, And now, what I mean by that, I know that I go to meetings, and I know that I stay sober by going to meetings. And I stay sober by staying out of bars and all that. But what I don't know is I don't know how bad off my mind can get so that I'm liable to go back into that bar. Because that's why I used to go into that bar, because I couldn't live in the world I was in, and I wasn't drunk 24 hours a day. I did become that way, but I wasn't that way when I started. And so to speak of recovery here, I believe that it should be talked a little bit anyway about what the disease of alcoholism is today, right now. This is an individual program. This isn't collectively it's written that way so that it applies to every one of us. But individually, it has to be applied individually, or you can't have it. In other words, I can't give it to you, or I can't act that way, and then you benefit from it. See, it's a participation game. You got to get in there and do it to have it. It's just like playing ball or drinking or anything else. So to have this way of life and to talk this way I'm talking, I think that possibly, maybe I've said so many things about ABCs. What I consider the ABCs is alcoholism, ego, and self, the identity of it. When you're sober, when you're sitting in a meeting like this and you got everything going for you, you got a new coach, you got maybe a new car, you got many things going your way that are good things. But yet, though, inside, deep down inside, there's something inside that says there's something wrong, or there's some person that isn't quite right. That the mind that's talking is saying words that are harmful words to somebody. Memory is so good for every alkie I know, including me, that drunk or sober would make no difference. See, I still can remember how you behaved, and I still can hold it against you today, or I accuse you of it. Whether you did it or not is not important to me. See, it isn't. It's a way of thinking that should be described and talked about, because what it is, it's alcoholism. It's a condition of the mind. It's a mind that does things that it shouldn't do. And for me, in the beginning, I had the hardest time in the world, because if it hadn't have been for, like Emmett Fox's book, Sermon on the Mount, it hadn't have been for Dr. Thibault and his talking about the ego factors and how ego has marvelous recuperative powers, and how ego, the capacity of ego to bypass experience would be humorous if it wasn't so tragic in its consequences, Now, I didn't know them things, they're important now. What I just said, them are not my words, them are Dr. Thibault's words. But you see, what he was describing was things that I had to hear and know what they mean. And it's not like reading. It isn't like reading this page, and now I got all this page information to do something with. I don't know, but I have it. This was something that I had to recognize and realize as I lived in the day I was in, so I didn't behave that way. or I didn't go to where I used to go and get the results that I always got. This is a description now of what alcoholism is as a mind-power disease. A mind-power disease. If it's a mind-power disease, it can't be repetitious or it can't be repetitive, because I live in my mind. That's my house. That's where I live. I live inside of me. And if I live inside of me, then there's no way possible can I be anybody different than I am, because I have to be me, because there's nothing there but me. And this is part of what like I had to learn now, the ABCs: alcoholism, ego, and self. 3 things, 1 person, me. And so this is why in like step 2, we were talking about step 2, where I had to come to believe in a power greater than me to restore me to sanity. And to believe in something is easy to say that. It's easy to, it was for me. It was very easy to say words. Now these words I said them, but I didn't know what they meant. I didn't live them because I don't know how to live them. They were words that I could repeat, and you could hear them from me, because they came right out of print. Everything I say is out of print. But what I say now is out of my life because of the print. And there's a big difference now. And this difference lies in the fact that I can be somebody today that I never could be before, and that I can do today something I couldn't do before. And it's only through the grace of God, the power of God, put it that way. And it started out with me a long time ago, knowing now the reason why I have to keep coming to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Because when I used to go to meetings, I wouldn't even get a block away, and somebody would blow the horn at me, and you know what happened to me? I want to kill them. I want to run them off the road, you know. I'm sober. There's nothing wrong. He just blew his horn, that's all. He wanted me out of his way, and I don't want to get out of his way, you know. And I don't for the life of me connect that up with that meeting I just left. I just don't. And yet they're in Alcoholics Anonymous, they're talking here about Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, will expel the obsession to drink and enable a sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. Now, you heard me say it many times. But I walk and talk that way. I believe this. I really believe this. Now, I know inside of myself that my Heavenly Father is going to take care of me. No harm is going to come to me. I know, because my life is in His care. But I didn't get that way overnight because I didn't know how to get that way overnight. Nobody was there to say, here's how you do it, here's what you need to do, here's what's wrong with you, here's what the 12 steps mean. This is all about what this meeting's about. It isn't about, you know, how drunk you used to get or how severe you used to treat everybody or just name things, you know, because I can name a million of them things, you know. And it isn't about that at all, but it is about it in a way that I have to see, know, and realize myself. By myself, I'm nothing. My Father doeth the works. That's what it says, step 7. And what that means now, you know, is the fact that right here and right now, I'm depending. My dependency is not a false dependency. It's not a dependency on popularity. It's not a dependency on pleasing you, any one of you. I don't care who you are. I'm not here for you. See? But I am here for you in another sense, that I'm a messenger. My Lord gave me a chance. He said, I want you to do something. And in turn, I'll do something for you. I'll show you a way of living where drinking's not necessary. I'll take you places you can go now, and when you go there, you will be somebody that I want you to be instead of who you are. I didn't know the difference between what I'm talking about now, about being who I should be through a power greater than me, and His name is God. And that's what it says here. In step 2, it says first, power greater than me, but then as you read it, though, it's going to go into some other words. It's going to go into the word God. And it talks about an open mind. And I believe that, you know, like a meeting like this, I actually believe that each one of us should have more information daily this day, today, now, about the disease of alcoholism, what an open mind means, what willingness means, what acceptance means, what surrender means. More, always more, because the book to me, when it talks in the big book and the 12 by 12, to grow spiritually. How can I possibly grow spiritually with what I have in me? I can go to where I am, or to where I think I am anyway, as far as belief or trust or unconditional love even, anything like that. But there's more demand on my life today because this is today. Yesterday was a beautiful day, but this day has to be more beautiful because God will make it that way. Because of the performance that I give today is my life. My life's important to me. My life never was important to me before sober. Wasn't. And this is something that I had to realize. To come to Alcoholics Anonymous like this here, and just to go ahead and sit here and spend an hour and a half, or whatever it is, and then walk out the door and walk out with just memory, maybe, if you got one, about, something that was said, that it was important, like I used to think. I used to think, man, if I only knew this then, I would have been fine. But I didn't know it. And then I started looking at things like that all the time, Why didn't you tell me that in the first place, I'd say, and different things like that. Here I am, I'm trying to build a relationship with a power greater than me, and a power greater than me is not a human power, see? Although I had a sponsor. And I didn't realize just exactly what the purpose of coming to this meeting and why the 12 steps would be there in the order form they're in. Why is 2 in the second place, 3 in the third place, and so on. Because of the fact that I thought, and I was just reading an article this morning, I think it was, and it was about an article about me getting too smart, getting too much information, or thinking I'm so well, or thinking I have so much now that I can coast and I can rest on my laurels and I can go along. And because of the fact that so much has happened in my life and I went so far in a good life, not an argumentative life, fighting life, a dirty life, or a sewer life, or anything else like that. None of them things. And this is what that article was talking about. And it was talking about a daily reprieve. And the daily reprieve is only spiritually. And this, I think, should be talked about or recognized now because of the fact that each one of us now, you have to look inside. You have to be like my sponsor said. You have to be self-honest, only to self, nobody else, and see deep down inside. This day, today, this day, now, this day. What kind of a day was it, really? Just truthfully, what kind of a day was it? Was it a day of good thinking, good happiness? Was it a day that you enjoyed every minute of it? Was it a day that you tried to really help somebody, genuinely, sincerely, honestly help somebody? Was it a day that you could remember because everything about the day was always there for somebody else instead of self? This is real. This is true what I'm talking about. Because I know for sure that myself, if I don't have what Bill Wilson talks about in the language of the heart here, on this emotional sobriety, if I don't have this here absolute dependency, I don't have anything. Because what I have is no more than what I can produce, and what I can produce is no more than what's in me, and what's in me is the same thing that's always been in me. And then you see, then I have to take that for what it is. The steps, I love the steps, I really do, and I know them well, and I know what they're for. I know how to use them. I know the meaning behind each one of them. They grow, and they grow, and they grow. They get deeper, but deeper means spiritually. That means in application, that means that the use of the step by principle or truth, I can use it more than I ever used it before. I can show more kindness. I can show more compassionate, more understanding, patience, tolerance. I can show more as each day comes by. This is something that's really something to talk about. Now, you know what I'm talking about now? I'm talking about a living life now. I'm not talking about something that's in fantasy land. I'm not talking about a lie. I'm not talking about something where it allows me to talk against you or to consider you somebody less than and make this here be true to me. Now, I don't have to voice it. I'm not talking about voicing it. I'm talking about thinking it. And I found out that once the thought is there, the soul's consent is there. I'm that man. Whatever that man is, I am that man without the act. When the soul's consent is given, I am that man. Now, you see, that to me, I couldn't put that into the perspective of where it belongs. It belongs in alcoholism. And this comes right out of the Sermon on the Mount. And I didn't know that. But see, the things that I learned in the Sermon on the Mount transferred over to the steps in application. That was something that, by an authority. The authority wasn't a human being authority. See? It came out of a book that was printed. It was printed, and it was something that was done a long time ago, but it had an origin that these here principles, all of them, any of them, are spiritual in their nature. And so that meant that they come probably from the Bible, probably from many, like step 2 says here, in step 2. Step 2 says in here that scientists go by the principle of search and research, always with an open mind. That's a principle that they live by. That guides them. It's like a mathematical principle. 2 + 2 is 4. Can you change it? You can't. You have to use it that way. You add it up that way, and that's the way it is. Well, this is the same thing now, what I'm talking about step application. And the step application is already there to do. Not my step application, and me, it had anything to do with me, but it has everything to do with me and my life as I live my life. Because without this, I have to go back to where I've always been. I've always been mad, mean. I've always been suspicious, jealous. I'm always envious. I'm going back some years that were in drunken years, and then some of it was taken into sober years, because I was the same man sober as I was drunk. Because my ego was killing me, and I didn't know it. My ego, I didn't know I had an ego problem. I didn't. And, the first time I found that out was in 1957. And the reason I remember these dates is because of the fact that at that particular time I was in trouble. And I was in trouble with my life because of ego, and I didn't know what ego was. And I didn't know what ego does to my life and how it affects my life. And so this here, in 1957, when Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age came out, in there in the back where Medicine Looks at Alcoholics Anonymous, or read it if you want to sometime. It's Dr. Tebow's writing. And Dr. Barr introduces them back there. And the thing about this ego business is the fact that I always can look down on you and find fault, or I always can find fault at you or from you, and I always can put you down, but I never do that to me, though. And the ego that has marvelous recuperative powers, when they took my job away from me, I was a service manager at a Lincoln Mercury dealer, and I was making good money. I had 2 paychecks that were really good. And I had quite a bit of authority over a lot of people, and I had a big ego, and because I was number one, they had to come to me for everything, even a body shop, and stuff like that. But when they canned me and threw me out of there, and I went on a drunk and I wound up in an alky hospital, there was no ego in me. See, the ego was smashed, and it was really smashed, because I didn't have a dime in my pocket. I haven't got a place to go. I haven't got a wife that would even have anything to do with me. And I had a bar that I could go to where I used to give him every paycheck. In that bar, there happened to be a guy, and he was an Iceman. I yelled for help. I yelled for help from the Iceman, because I was told from the bartenders and the joint owners that he used to be like me, and he isn't like me now. And he put me in an alky hospital. See? And when he put me in the alky hospital, I come out of the hospital, my ego is still gone. I'm still flip-flopping. I'm wondering what happened. I have no idea what happened. Here I was, good one day, next day I'm gone. And so he got my job back. My wife came back. Next thing, my ego come back. And then you know what I had? I had the same thing I had before they fired me. I had me. And that's the story of my life. That's not a story that I read in a book somewhere. That's what happened to me. And you know, to have a way of life like tonight, all of us, every one of us, to be able to have a description or an identification or an awareness of why you're here, why you're here. Do you have to come here to learn how to get madder or how to treat your wife worse or your girlfriend or another driver or a neighbor? That's what I did. I don't mean any of you. I'm talking about me. That's exactly what I did. And I was not drunk. I took on the fact that I made good money, and my happiness now was in my living. Living meant money. Living meant houses, cars, motorhomes, dune buggies, racing, water skiing, everything. You name it, I had it. I got medals even from all of that stuff. That was my living, and it was good. But you know my life? I was just as rotten inside. I was just as mean, mad. I was just the same man that I've always been, with no change. One day things are fine, next day they're terrible. One minute I love you, the next minute I hate you. But you see, all of this, what I'm saying right now, is the purpose of this meeting here in a description of what alcoholism is. It's a mind-powered disease. Now, you know, let me tell you, I know the words I'm saying don't mean nothing to you. I know they don't. They didn't mean nothing to me. But the application of those words, to find out how I could live differently through the words that are there. Now, the words that are there are the 12-step words, 12 steps. To be able to have this instead of what I have. To be able to stop doing things because there's a power that I get immediately in here that will help me stop doing them things. And it's in step 2. In step 1, you know, the principles, like when I talk about step 1, I believe that each one, any one of us, I don't care who you are, you could help me and I could help you. The way I can do that, I can help you read. And by helping you read, maybe I could show you something here that you didn't see. You didn't know. It's here, but you didn't see it. You didn't recognize it because of the fact the way it's worded. The way it's worded, it makes sense. It sounds good. I believe it. But how do you live it? How do you do things like this here? Like here, you know, it says in here, who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. Now, man, there ain't no way I thought I was powerless over anything or anybody. I was 31 years old. I worked real hard. I wasn't a little guy at all. I was pretty strong, pretty tough. I traveled around with guys that knew how to handle themselves and things like that. And for me to do something like this, no way. I ain't going to do it. I am not going to do it. The only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to see what I can do about not going back in that bar. The only thing I'm going to do is to see if I can't find a way so that this here doesn't apply to me. Now that's exactly the way I thought. That's exactly. And then down at the bottom here, you see, I thought like maybe some of you here tonight, maybe you think this way. Maybe you think that you drank too much or you snorted or whatever you did too much, and that was your problem. Maybe you think that. I don't know if you do or you don't, but maybe you do. I did. I thought my problem lied in the fact that I lived in joints. I really lived in joints, you know. I'd even open them up in the morning at 5 o'clock, and I'd close them at 2:30 or 2 o'clock in the evening. And, you know, this is the way I lived. I really lived that way. I was in blackouts coming to at work and never had no idea where I was before. But what good is to talk about stuff like that? You know, why talk about it like that? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a thing to you, me, or anybody else, because I don't live that way and I have nothing to do with that. But there is something here that I should pay attention to. There is something here I should look at and see that this information, it's this information. Can I put this in my mind? And could I actually find this, you know? When it says we know that little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA unless he first accepted his devastating weakness and all of its consequences, until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precarious. Of real happiness he'll find none at all. Proved beyond doubt by the immense experience, this is one of the facts of the AA way of life. Now, you know, that's something you can put in your head, what I just said. You know what this means? To accept my most devastating weakness and all of its consequences? I used to think it meant whiskey. I used to think that that's what they're talking about. That don't mean that. My most devastating weakness is my mind that won't let me live in a world without alcohol, and I have to suffer the consequences of getting fired, hurting my wife, getting in accidents, hospitals, and things like that. That's what it means. If it was a mere fact of just falling down drunk, that wouldn't be, to me, that wouldn't be anything, you know. Just stay the hell out of the bars, see? And you won't fall down drunk. It doesn't mean that. It means that I have something wrong with me, and it'll put me right in the graveyard, like it puts everybody else. I was reading the other day, I was showing Ali back there, I was showing Ali that since man first crushed grapes up till Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson got together, there was 2% recovery from alcoholism. 98% had to go insane or to an institution or graveyard. I was showing it to them in print. This is research by Dr. Silkworth. Can you imagine that right now? Can you believe that that could be possible right now, today, this day? Since 1935, when Alcoholics Anonymous is credited to start with Dr. Bob, before that, there was only 2% recovery. 2%. Can you believe that? I looked at that and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that was possible like that. Here, the reason why is for what happened to me in my life in the beginning. 2.5 years I didn't do nothing, and 2.5 years I didn't have anything either. But the point of that is that the minute that I used or I went to where I belong with a power, a God, a Heavenly Father, a Lord of my life, and the minute I started believing and trusting in a way of thinking and acting that comes from print, not reading it now, not working it, but asking God, being with God. I accept my most devastating weakness. Would you help me? Would you help me with my mind? Can I think right? Would you allow me to think right? Could you help me with my thinking? These are prayers that I don't need to get on my knees for. I can do them right here. I can ask God right now to help us all, every one of us, everyone, to be with us and show us what it is we need for our lives today. That can be done right now. You see, I have a relationship in step 2. When it says in there, I have an open mind, and I came to believe in a power greater than me to restore me to sanity, this is an individual program, written collectively for everyone. But it means exactly that. The words that I say are my life. You don't have to do any one of them. I'm not telling you to do them, and I wouldn't tell you to do them. But I can tell you what will happen to you if you do them, because I did. And this is important because of the fact that the disease of alcoholism is my whole life. The disease is everything I am. If there isn't a power greater than me, I have to live with that disease. I can't get away from it. It's me. These guys that commit suicide and gals, I know there's got to be somebody here that has some friends or somebody that did. I've had about 5 of them. I've worked with some of them, too, personally in 12-step work. And the reason they took their life was the fact that they couldn't live in the day they were in. The day they were in became too strong of relationships. It became too strong. I've lost some money. Money was one of them that was really there important. Another one was just plain drunkenness. He got too drunk, and he stuck a garden hose up the tailpipe and in the car. And he's done that many times, and this time his wife got a little too drunk and couldn't pull him out. So he had to go, and he left this earth anyway. But the point of it all is the disease of alcoholism. When is it? Where is it? Why don't it go away? Why can't you and I just not drink and be all right? Why can't we do that? These are questions that should be asked. They should be looked at and considered. Why can't I have a friend? Why can't I have a friend? Or this friend will stay a friend? Why? It talks in here and tells me why. I got the total inability to form a true partnership with another human being. You know what that means? That means I'll love you one day and hate you the next. I'll accuse you of something you didn't do and hate your guts for it, and you didn't even do it. I'll say things to you and about you. Never once ever thinking that I shouldn't do that. My Lord doesn't want me to talk that way or think that way or act that way. He wants to give me the world that belongs to Him, not the world that belongs to me. The world that belongs to me is the hateful world, the harmful world. That's why this here is called alcoholism, because it's alive. It's going on right now. It's happening right now. When does alcoholism attack you? When does it need treating? These were questions I said to myself, man, I've got to know. I'm not going to go to meetings like this no more and then go home and act like a damn fool. I can't even get home sometimes. Yeah. But see, that's self-honesty to self. I'm not trying to fool somebody. I'm not trying to make you think I'm an angel or walk on water or anything else. I don't. I got problems. I got troubles too. But they don't tear the world apart. I don't hurt people. I don't look at people as the fault. I look inside. Page 90 in here, when it says in here, it's a spiritual axiom. So whenever I'm disturbed, no matter what the cause, I'm at fault. Boy, you know that's hard to swallow. But it's the truth. It's the truth. Where else is the trouble? Yeah. I say, I've spoken quite a bit. I would like to say a lot of words if I could, so that there are people that are here tonight, alkies that are here tonight, could gain or could have some hope about a message that's in print for all of us, every one of us, that I need it just as badly as you need it. I have to live it just like you do. If I don't, I have to do again the same thing I've always done, and I don't want to do that. This is important to talk about. This is a message of recovery. This is all about alcoholism, not about alcohol. We're not even beginning to talk about the word alcohol. Isn't that funny that alcohol is only mentioned in the first step, in the first part of the step, too, first step. Glass in hand, I warp my mind, it says, And it says it's a twofold nature disease of the mind and body. And then it goes in where I have to go ahead and I have to hit bottom. Alcohol is not talked about, but alcoholism is. That's what this is about. Okay, that's all I got on that. And I don't know if you do a daily, what you can do. To have a discussion here, we should have a discussion about alcoholism or the steps. If there's any question now for anybody that has any questions about step application, about where you use it or why you use it and so on, this is the time or the type of meeting that you should do it, because it's not a moaning and groaning meeting, and it's not a meeting of drunkenness or yesterday's life. Regardless, this is learning how to live in a world that you can live in. So if there's anybody here tonight that wants to talk any way at all about this message, let's get it started. Anybody at all? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jamie.
It's really nice to be here. I haven't been here for a couple of months. But I've been listening to the tapes, and I've really been practicing some things that I heard in here that actually have been in these books all along, but I wasn't able to pay attention to them until I heard Bob talk about them. And like one, for example, I was at the grocery market the other day, and I had a whole big thing of groceries, and the person behind me had one thing, and I could just feel that, like, please let me go ahead of you vibe coming from behind me, and I was thinking, no, I'm in a hurry, and I wasn't even that big a hurry, but I just wanted to be in a hurry, and I just wasn't going to do it, and I automatically thought, what would God have me do? And I said, would you like to go ahead of me? And it was so much easier to let the person go ahead of me, and I felt so good about myself, and I felt like such a creep. I mean, I couldn't believe that I was, my defiance. It's amazing. But this has really become a part of me now, that I do it all the time, and as a result, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable because I'm asking God what to do a lot, and so God's had me do a few things and say no to a few things, and I'm feeling really cranky because I don't get to do some things that I would like to do, and I know that God wants me somewhere else, but I'm in that sort of, that in-between place, and I guess that's what I was going to maybe ask you to talk about, when you start to sort of align your will with God's will, and you're finding that God maybe doesn't want you to do some things that you'd really like to do, and how uncomfortable that can be. Where there's really nothing to sort of grab onto but this idea of God.
Very good. Thank you. I'll say a few short words on that. Is the fact that when I'm building this character, me, when I came here, and I started, when I really started in the application of the steps, I try to modify me. I try to be a part of me in everything that was going on. I was trying to add things to my life. Now, this is important, see, because of the fact of what I've seen this so many times myself, besides me doing it, is that I never knew about a character change, meaning that I could be another man than I am. A character change. Character is describing only me inside. It's a word that I found when Dr. Carl Gustav Jung describes any man or woman. He describes the character in here. The true character lies in the subconscious, or he calls unconscious mind, instead of the conscious mind. So you see, what the things that you were saying, are so true to the effect that as you see things this way, but you have to think in terms of doing them this way. And that's a relationship, you believe, that's there. Well, I had to find out that I had to believe in a power greater than me that would restore me to sanity, and then I had to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. I'm living now in a different world. I'm not looking at things like I used to look at things, and then I had to either not do it because it was wrong, or I knew it was wrong, or it would be effective the wrong way, or something like that. I didn't know that I could be totally free of me in my mind in the day I'm in, so that I don't have to keep weighing things out, right and wrong, win, lose, say this, don't say that. This is something important what I'm talking about, because this is the program of recovery, and why there's 12 steps here. Because if I have to go through the day, myself personally, if I have to go through the day and make choices all the time, or make decisions all the time, by myself, or thinking first about God and then me, I'll never make it. See, I never make it. That's what Bill Wilson was talking about here, about false dependencies, what he was talking about, see? That he had to get rid of all of his false dependencies. And that meant prestige and people, and he even said even AA. And what that means is the character change. The bottom line is this. The character change is a character spiritually changed so that I don't have to think or act or be who I am by myself. See, to produce my own life. This is important, and what you're saying is a very good question. It's a question that should be answered, but more than once. It should be looked at more than once also. Because if each one of us had to come here and we had to learn how to do each day by choice or by decisions or whatever, I don't believe we'd make it. I know I couldn't make it. I know I couldn't keep it up. But I don't. See, I can walk around that corner, right around that corner right now, and I don't have to get ready for it. And there's anything could be there, during your day of life. I'm talking about living, and as you live your life in the day, I don't have to get prepared to be nice or to say the right words or to say or to do something special, a special way or anything else. I'm going to be the man God says I'm going to be, and I'm going to act and think like that because He's powering me. I go deeper inside with the relationship of God. This is what's important, see. I don't want to go deeper in relationship with me. But this is what the steps are about, and that's why step 2 is in the second position when then 3 follows. I had to learn about steps that they're in an order form, a logical order form from 1 to 12 to build the character that God wants me to be, not the one I want to be. And that's why they put the steps in the position they're in. If you stop and take each one apart from 1 all the way up, you'll notice that when you get to step 11, so much has been done in character building in the other 10 steps now. So much, so great, a huge amount. And then in step 11 is the only step I can live and grow spiritually. See, it says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood Him. Not understand Him, understood Him. Praying only for the knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. See, before it was my will was in there, and then I had to kick it out. Because sometimes it was in there, and I don't want to do this, but I'm still looking at that, see. Now I got a way out. I have a power that allows me to go ahead and make a decision. And the decision I'm going to make, I know is backed up by God. I know that He's there. I know He's here because I ask Him to be here with me, guide me, direct me, to help you, to help us all, to be with us all. According to your will, is it possible we can have that? And it's up to God to do it, see. Sandy?
I've got a couple of questions right along this line for you, Bob. So when you talk about walking around that corner and you don't have to be ready for anything, and you talk about the logical order of the steps, and then I'm hearing the bridge from doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And in 11 they talk about intuition. In the earlier steps they talk about proper use of the will. So if I'm hearing you correctly, then by doing 1 through 10, when you are in 11, where it talks about we intuitively know how to handle situations, which is about part of the promises that you get to do, is that's through an accumulation of 1 through 10. That's where we begin to, God gave us brains to use, where we begin so we don't, because I love what sounds so attractive is not having to decide. Not to be into work and wondering, am I doing God's will or is it my will? I have to make this decision, where it becomes more of an automatic way because we've built the new character, and the new character is with God, then we can begin to intuitively use that. Is that kind of the direction where you're going? That's what I want to hear.
Thanks, Eddie. Well, let me put it to you this way. You know, what you're talking about is in step 9, when we intuitively handle situations used to baffle us and all that. The character change is the thing that I never like to hear the word character. Because where I come from, the word character is used to describe somebody that's really a rat, you know. And I was a person years ago that was that rat. And so when they said, don't trust that character and all that, I kept reading character, the word character. It's all through the book, you know, any of it. I didn't pay any attention to it because I didn't know what character meant, you know. And so the idea behind the whole picture of Alcoholics Anonymous is that I have to change. If I don't change, my yesterdays are my todays. Now, try to think about this in truth or principle, if you will. If you don't, as me, don't change, you'll have to do again what you've done already, if you don't change. Now, the purpose of the steps now is to build a new character for me as I apply the steps. That's why, remember I told you on page 60, the guys that don't know this or read this, write it down, page 60 to 63. I found this way back in the 50s. I found this, and I found it by reading it because God says, read this, I want you to know this. And it's on page 60 to 63. It starts out that I had to be convinced that any life run on success could hardly be a success, because I'm always in conflict with something or somebody, even when my motives are good. And then it ends on 63 at the top when it says up there that I've been reborn. Reborn spiritually. But in between 60 to 63 is a description of me, the way I think, the way I live, the way I act, everything about me. Especially 62, page 62. And even in 62 it said I had to quit playing God. It says my troubles are my own making. And it's true, they are. I look at you, whoever you are, and I blame you. I find fault with you. And yet the fault isn't you. It's what my mind says to me about you that's what's really wrong. Now, if you can swallow that, you know, that might help you a great deal with your life as you live your life in the daytime, because it might remove a little bit of troubles, a little bit of anguish or hardship and so on. But the most important thing, though, is the character change. Without the character change, I'll have to repeat a performance that I do all the time, whether I'm drunk or sober. Because when I was drunk, I did this. But when I got sober, I did this again. When I treated somebody this way drunk, I got sober, I treated them that way drunk and sober. So I don't see, now in step one now, it actually says so in step one in a 12 by 12 here. About this, what I'm talking about, see. It's the part about hitting bottom, why all of us must hit a bottom. If we don't, who wants to do this? Nobody. Not one of us want to do it. The bottom isn't losing your property. The bottom isn't losing your wife and your job. The bottom is losing your insides, the whole total being, the respect of self, the self-worth, the integrity of self. Lying, cheating, stealing, using, abusing people. That's what I lost inside. I lost me. I became somebody inside of me that, you know, I couldn't look in the mirror and look in my eyes. Because what I was looking at a phony. I was looking at a person that was taking advantage of people for no reason at all, only for my satisfaction. See? But I couldn't stop me from doing that. This is what you're talking about, Sandy, is that the fact to be sober, that's one thing. But to be happy, joyous, and free, or read the bottom of page 83 right here, of what it says here in the bottom of page 83, that's step 9. See what it says there. See? Well, the reason it's there is because of the fact that there's 12 steps. The 11th step, now if you notice the 11th step, what it said, I said already, but the 12th step says this. It says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, that's 11. I tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of my affairs. Not practice these steps in my affairs. Practice these principles. What principles? Every step, every line, every page is about principles, about truth, about how to look at somebody, how to think, and think to good purpose. Think with a mind that isn't ratty. To think like what you were talking about. Seeing two sides all the time. Seeing your side and then seeing God's side. And there is no such thing as that. There isn't. But until you personally learn, there's nothing I could do about it. I can't change it. When it talks on page 45 and it says lack of power is my dilemma, that's the kind of power they're talking about. I can't do anything about me and I can't do anything about you. Lack of power, the power to change. The power to change you or me. I don't have that power. But it says that's what this book is about. And it also says now we're going to talk about God. Somebody else.
My name's Philip, and I'm an alcoholic. Happy anniversary. Yeah, I've just this is a wonderful meeting, and I'm working on my 6th and 7th step now, and concurrent with that, it's really strange because I'm going through this period where when I pray now, I don't get any sense of being heard, or I don't get any sense of sort of contact with God, which I have before. And I'm in a period now where I just feel as if when I'm talking to God in prayer, it's just me talking. I don't get any sense of God's presence when I pray, which is sort of a frightening thing to me. And I don't sort of know how to get that feeling of presence. And I wonder if that's sort of, I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I am in my 6th and 7th step, and I am. My sponsor said that these are the 2 steps that seem to work you more than you work them, and certainly I'm getting to the end of my rope with a lot of my character defects and my shortcomings. I read somewhere that prayer, where I'm sort of begging God, or I'm sort of saying, a lot of my prayers, God, please, just get rid of this. I can't stand this anymore. Please, just get rid of this. That when I pray that way, I'm still praying in the problem, and so I'm not really praying in the solution, and that could be one of the reasons why I don't get the sense of my prayers being heard. But I wonder if you could possibly address that and also possibly speak to the 6th and 7th steps so I could get some experience from that. Thank you.
To answer this as quick as I can anyway, I had to learn first to have a relationship, with God. Now, this was step 2. I didn't know why step 2 was there. I had to learn to have a relationship with God instead of a relationship with my own life or anybody else's. But I didn't know in prayer what prayer meant. Because prayer to me is like petition. It's like a communion, or it's talking for a reason of maybe favors or something like that, Well, I didn't know what prayer really meant, and I didn't know there's 2 parts to prayer. And I was going on one part only all the time. And this I learned because I came here, I didn't have a God when I come here. I learned to have a God through another alcoholic here that belonged to him, not me. But I didn't know how to pray. I prayed on my knees for, I wouldn't pray, period, unless I was on my knees. And the 2 parts of prayer was something that I had to learn myself. First, there was the communion or the petition or the recognition of a power greater than me that could do for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it says definitely on page 100, that both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen, far greater in God's hands than anything you could have planned. Follow the dictates of the higher power, and you presently live in a new and wonderful world. Well, you see, I lived in prayer. Prayer by ritual, prayer by name. I called him God. He told me to. I lived in the day that I was in strictly by a morning and a night, and possibly during the day sometime or another, in a recognition of thank God. But I never lived the second part of prayer. I never lived that prayer so that prayer could be answered. Whatever it was, I didn't live it. Now, this is important to say, because, my dependency was depending on God to perform so that I would get what I thought I should have, because I asked God to help me to do this, to do that, but I wouldn't do anything about the help that was needed to make it happen. And I didn't know about 2 parts of prayer, and I believe 2 parts of prayer for any of you, if you don't know this at all. I talk about it at retreats and all of that. You've heard me, John. And I think it's very important, because every one of us can, just as easy as pie, like in step 5, I can admit to God, to myself, and another human being, the exact nature of my wrong. I can admit to God and talk to God all day long and still do whatever I want to do. I do. I mean it. I'm serious about that. But there came a time, though, that I knew that inside of me, the change that you're talking about, it's on top of page 63. And top of page 63 is part of what I said that, you should read, or you should know about it, is that it says, this first 60 to 63 now, this 63. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, and as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn spiritually. See? Well, that there has so much meaning to it, is what the second part of prayer is all about. Because what it says in here, being all-powerful, he provided what we needed. If we kept close to him and performed his work well, see, not my work well, his work well. I don't know how to read stuff like this, see, I don't know how to read it to purpose. It's here in print, but I think as I read it, I read to read, and that's wrong. I should read this so this is a direction, so that even if I'm alone, in the car, at work, or someplace like that, I can read this and I can feel 10 million times better than I ever felt before. Because here's something here that I didn't realize that I'm not doing it. I'm praying to God. You bet I am, man. I prayed to God when I found out there is one, I prayed to him. But that's all I did. It was a ritual. It was a time factor. It was a name, And I always took the fact that just the mere identity, like in the beginning, we say the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And then we talk to the Lord at the Lord's Prayer, Do you really believe that? Do you really believe it? If you believe it, do you just say it? Do you just say the words, or do you believe that? See, I didn't know how to believe it. See, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know my Heavenly Father, no harm's going to come to me, no temptation's going to take me away from him. I didn't know that that's what they're talking about. See? I wouldn't even say the Lord's Prayer for the first 2.5 years. I didn't know why. And yet, though, here, there's such a way here that each one of us, each one that's here, you grow spiritually. You can have more today for your life than you've ever had before. And I'm talking about now, I'm talking about a good life. I'm talking about a life where the rat race stops. The rat race is in here, not out there. Where people become good people. People that badmouth you, they're still good people. There's not one of them I hate. There's not one of them I would say, why don't you go someplace else? You're not needed here. I won't live like that. I don't think like that, and I won't do that. This is a world that I'm in that belongs to God. But I must do God's will. I must do the second part of prayer. If I ask God to help me to take away my difficulty or to just whatever it is, then I have to start doing the things that will create that kind of life with his power. See? I'm not asking for a Rolls Royce or, $1 million, but I'm asking for peace of mind. Would you show me how to have peace of mind? And then I have to right immediately ask God, what is it I need to do now? I have to stop thinking about something that was really disturbing. I have to stop thinking maybe about a person, about a happening or a memory of a yesterday or something like that. And I'm free of it. Free is exactly I'm just totally free of it. It's gone. And it doesn't come back either. But I know that I know that I've read, and I know this, I know who said this and everything else, and it talks about that he'll forgive me 70 times 7. If I make a mistake, he'll still forgive me 70 times 7. That's quite a promise. Somebody else. Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank. I'm an alcoholic. You know, it's this. You know, I can really hear this stuff now. You know, it's like really. You know, there's the whole thing. It's about total dependency on God for me. You know, I've been coming to AA for 12 years, but I didn't know what I was coming for. You know, I was coming for that. I had a God, but, you know, I was praying, like you were saying, you know, for the God to perform for me, you know. And I just didn't know where the performance came in that I could do. And it's all in the spiritual principles, you know, and I'm really putting those in my life. And it's amazing how, you know, every area in my life is just being treated, you know. It's everything, you know, even things I don't think about. I'm just in the process of buying a house now, and you know, it's like I'm not buying the house, you know. It's God is buying the house for me. I have, because I don't know. See, last time I bought a house, I didn't know all this, you know, and I was totally crazy, you know. And now today I put in an offer, and I just, you know, I talked to God about it, you know, and I said I don't know if I should do this. You know, but it's, you know, if I'm just going to assume that's what you want me to do, and if it's not, you know, let me know, you know, and then if the offer doesn't come through, I'll have my answer or whatever, and I'm totally at peace with this, you know, and that's totally a new way of life for me, because before, you know, these thoughts come from self that, you know, I think, well, maybe I should push the offer, I should, you know, find out and stuff, and, you know, immediately, you know, I see the thought, I don't have to give that thought any power, because that's self, you know. And you know, if I'm not, I realize more and more how myself, you know, if I start thinking with my mind and I start pushing, you know, and you know, doing things in my life with my mind, it's just mediocre, you know. It's just not going to be, you know, I'm just not at peace, you know, and I think, and I get nervous, and I think, you know, is this right? Is this wrong? And now I came to the point, I don't know, I think Sandy said something, I come to a point where I don't have to make a decision, you know. I just do what's in front of me. I mean, this is now a big thing for me, but it was just there, you know, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm perfectly at peace with it, because I know, you know, by myself I'm nothing, you know. God does the works, you know. And I went for a long walk today, and I just, you know, I realized, you know, it's total dependency. I never knew what that meant. I thought, you know, dependency to stay sober, you know, help me to stay clean and sober today, and then, you know, the rest, or something like that. Or I would pray in the morning if I would remember. But now I have, you know, through the application of this, I have found a living God, you know, that I talk to all the time. And when things are not right, you know, like Bob was saying, it's a spiritual axiom. If something is disturbing me, you know, that feeling in the stomach, I know I got to look at this, you know, this, because I play a part in it. And with the tools, you know, of the, you know, step 6, I can look what instincts come in, you know, and immediately it becomes clear, and there it is. And I don't even have to do this, you know, I just ask God to help me. And, you know, you know, you always ask this, you know, look at your day, you know, and I looked at my day, and I really had a great day, you know. And there was one moment where I had a little bit of a problem, you know, fear came in and stuff, and I got a little rough, and you know, and I went, you know, I said it straight, and it was okay, you know, God was there again. It's like, but it took me a while to get this, because I just had to, you know, to listen to spiritual principles, you know, and see how do I put those in my life, and it's like my life is a bliss. And I know, you know, when you were talking about, you know, I got to do a performance. I never knew what that, I mean, I knew what it meant, but it was frustrating. I think, yeah, but what performance? You know, where do I, tell me what performance? And basically, it really is all in there. You know, there's spiritual principles, they're principles spiritual in their nature. They've been proven. You know, it says somewhere in the Sermon on the Mount that it makes, you know, it's like, I call them laws, and the sermon talks about laws, you know, so they have to work, and it's like, as a human being, I'm a spiritual being, so I have to put spiritual laws in my life, otherwise my life is going to fall apart. And all these years I've been putting human laws in my life, and that's why, you know, I had stomach acid, I was drinking, I was just not well. And now I'm learning on a daily basis to have this conscious contact with God, you know, and it's wonderful, you know. It's like areas that I don't even think of. I have some business in Switzerland, and yesterday I got these call. You know, I called somebody for something totally different, and things are falling into place there. You know, I wasn't even aiming for that. You know, it's like my relationship and my family, my kids, my wife. You know, everything is totally. You know, it's okay. It's great, actually. I love coming home now, you know. And when I listen to self, it's like, oh, God, you know, now I just have to change this diaper, and, you know, I'm going to call somebody, you know. And the minute I go back to God, it's, you know, this is an opportunity to bond with my son or something. You know, now when I change my son's dirty diaper, I thank God for it, you know, for the opportunity to do that. And that's, you know, I just wanted to add, I was up in Taos, New Mexico, and I saw this, you know, medicine man that we know, and I spent time with him, and he was telling me, you know, sometimes at night he wakes up, because I asked him about prayer, you know, and he said, sometimes at night I wake up and I just can't, you know, and I just pray for somebody down the road who might have a flat tire, you know. And that really inspired me, you know. And I put this in my life now, where, you know, today this guy passed me, and I thought, and I saw he was, you know, a father with a child, and I, you know, as I was following them, I just prayed for him, you know. And I don't know the guy, and that's, I think, that is the performance we're talking about, you know. And it really works. I mean, it's totally blessed. I'm very grateful. Thanks.
Sandy was asking about 6 and 7, and so there's 10 minutes left. Maybe if somebody else wants to say something at first or something before, because Ali.
Yeah, Ali Akali. Yeah, I have a question, Bob, about being in AA, like especially in prime time after a while, and coming here and listening to you and everything, and after a while my mind stopped, you know, close up, and I don't see, you know, or listening no more. And like you always say, I get too smart, you know. And would you talk about that, and how could I see that? Like, what's the ominous sign to see how that happened?
You know, what Ali is talking about alcoholism, see? And you know, it's real true. What he said, I went through myself, really personally went through for a long time. I went to meetings, you know, and I've lived in AA religiously, believe me, you know, ever since I first started. But that doesn't mean too much, because some of the meetings I went to, I wasn't there. My body was, but my mind wasn't, you know. And I didn't know how to listen, you know. And I didn't know the reason for being at a meeting like this. I really didn't know what this was about. This was all about. I thought this was something that you do, you stay sober. I thought this is something that each one of us come here because we do something, you know, drink too much or snort or use or whatever you do. And by coming here, that keeps you away from there, wherever there is, I don't even know, and stuff like that. But that's not what it is at all. That's part of what happens, and that's part of what a beginning is, because I certainly couldn't have, myself personally, stayed sober if I had a wife that would go to meetings every night with me. She had dinner ready when I got home, and away we went, But if she'd ever sent me off by myself, damn well where I'd have went. Because at that time, it was a different story, see, But what Ali's talking about, is that I had to learn that I'm here for me. I'm here for me. I don't know who you're here for, and it's none of my business. And I don't know if this means anything to you or don't. I don't know that. And I know, though, that I'm here because I have to be here. My life is in jeopardy. My life is important to me. I found out a long time ago what Ali's talking about is that when I went to meetings, my sponsor told me that from now on, he said, I want you to listen carefully to everything that's said at that meeting, everything, man or woman says. Not to judge them, not to criticize them, but to see where you're at. To see exactly where you're at. And I didn't know how to do that, see. But then when he started describing, like I talked to you about what alcoholism is, and how alcoholism will absolutely ruin your life, take your life away from you, and make you into a person you hate. It'll come back to you, and it's years gone by, and you're still going to bring it back here and rehash it, relive it, and re-energize it. And the alcoholism, you got to figure it out. How can it possibly be treated if you don't stay here and listen to the method so that you can live the method? Live the method that'll stop alcoholism, and that's what the 12 steps are about, and that's what I talk about. I'm not going to tell you all the escapades and all of the drunken life I had and the things that happened when I was drunk and that, because I bet there ain't a guy here that could even top it. But I mean that, that's exactly. But what good is it, though? What good would it be talking about stuff like that? See, But how about talking about the steps like you want to know on 6 and 7? See, because 6 and 7 are really, really big, huge. They all are big. They're all necessary. But when you get in 6 and 7, you're getting into an area now that it's going to take a little while to talk about. It's going to take some explaining because of the words that are in there and what they do. And for you and I to be entirely ready to have God remove all our defects of character, that sounds like a bunch of words, and it's more than words. To be entirely ready means right now, right now. I'm entirely right now to have God in my life right now, to take care of me right now. If there's anything wrong, I want God here now, not me. See? But how do you do something like that? Can you just talk to him and say, God, I'm in trouble, take care of it? You can't do that. That doesn't work. But it could be something in changing what you were talking about, and maybe I could learn how to change the character so that step 6, when it says it's a lifetime practice, that I could live today being entirely ready to have God help me every minute of this day. That's a principle. That's a truth. See? Now, some of you, I don't know if you believe in any of this or not, but all you'd have to do is try it. That's all you'd have to do is try it. And see what happens. See what happens to the situation the minute that you turn your mind off and turn God in there. See what happens there. See where that anger goes and see if it's still there, and so on. 7's entirely different, opposite than 6. So you can't put 6 and 7 together. You got to do 6, or you can't do 7. See, because 7's about humility and humbleness. 7's about giving, not taking. See, and it's really important to know. It's really important to see this, because my heart feels good inside. In other words, the character I am, the way I think about anybody. Anybody. Doesn't make no difference who they are, what they said, what they done. My heart feels good inside. Because I'm not carrying me, and I'm not carrying my defects, and I'm not carrying my thoughts that power me or upset me or tell me to get mad or tell me they're wrong. Right or wrong, I'm still going to unconditionally love you. I don't care who you are. Right or wrong. See? This is step 6 and 7, but it's only a touch on it. See, you know, because you have to learn, like I have to learn, exactly what it means to do this. Not talk about it, not just say words back and forth. You know, it's like when I was reading some of this stuff here. That's good reading. And it's true. Every bit of it's true. And it's my life, but I can't give it to you. I wish I could. I would give it to you in a second. You know. Somebody else, we got a little more time, have we? No, we're almost done. Okay.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. If that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.